Hi and hello, Watchmans. Welcome to another edition of the Real-Time Show. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm Edouard Meylan, the owner and CEO of Moser, and since Rob and Alon cannot figure out who's going to ask the first question, I'm going to start. And my question is, why the hell did you start another podcast, guys?
Well, yeah, he's got a point. He has got a point. I'll take this one, Alon, since we've been disagreeing for the last 10 minutes over who's going to start the show. Thanks, Edouard. That was wonderful. Please don't take my job.
My pleasure. you made it easy.
Okay. The idea behind the Real-Time Show was to start a more interactive podcast that talks to and listens to the Watch community and hopefully builds on the content it creates in a bit of a feedback loop, a positive feedback loop, we hope. Alon, did you have any ulterior motives for starting this podcast?
I honestly didn't. I enjoy hanging out with you virtually on the SoundCloud. And it's a passion project. We want to have fun, and we love all the podcasts out there. What we think that we can add is that we are unbiased and we are watch nerds ourselves. And we want to know every nitty gritty of the real details, everything time. So that's why we started this podcast.
Because you think the rest of the media are not objective enough?
Yeah, they're useless. Well, someone had to say it.
Let's make some friends here.
Okay, sorry. We better edit that bit out. Alon, give the professional answer that everybody wants to hear.
I do think that there's amazing stuff out there, but I don't think that the symbiosis between the watch industry and media, I think, is too dependent of each other. Is that a PC answer?
Yeah, no, I think it's right. I think we see always a lot of positive take on anything we do. And I think it's good to have sometimes people being a bit more constructive, but criticizing also and giving honest feedback. I think it's important for us as an industry, as an ecosystem. So I'm glad you guys took the initiative, and it's a pleasure to be part of it.
And that's why we're super honored, Edouard, that you came on and you were high on the list, because after Jean-Claude Bivel, who's very authentic and sincere and open in his answers, and that episode was amazing because he went very personal about his personal life when we asked him about flaws and mistakes we can learn from. And what we love about you, your family, and what you guys do at Moser Cie is, I believe you're the last of the Mohicans that still use an amazing sense of humor in their communication. And I want to start off with that, if I may. What made you guys go that route? And not only in your advertising and your PR, but you guys took it to the next level with amazing products like the Cheese Watch, the Wink at the Apple Watch, etc.
So it's a long question. There's many answers to that, but I think it to be honest, it came a little bit naturally. I think when you're a brand like Moser that we took over exactly 10 years ago. Actually, we're celebrating the 10 years now since my family decided to take it over. We were a bit unsure what we were supposed to do with it, and then you start trying to understand what's important at the brand that you want to keep, and then you try to bring a little bit of yourself. And to be honest, I before that I never really manage and run a big brand. So we try to be very honest, transparent, keep like the very human dimension of the brand. We are family. I work with my brother. We have a very small team of amazing people, and we thought we will do in terms of products what we like, what we want to wear, and we're gonna communicate the way we find cool for us, what resonates with us. And I think we have and you met many members of our team like Nicholas, Claire, Maurizio, Rolf. And if there's something that we have in common is the entrepreneurial spirit, but also I think this we like the same kind of movie, the Monty Python's type of things, and maybe when we had discussions about what's the next thing we should do, it kind of came naturally to us as the thing we like, and slowly it became the language for Moser. It worked out well, so we got positive feedback from the community, and And then we started to have like this recipe that works for us, that is very unconventional for our industry. But at the end of the day, when you're independent and make so few watches, you don't need to be conventional. You need actually to be different. And that's probably why it works so well.
Do you think that other brands could take on board the strategy you've managed to implement with such success and have the same kind of results? Or do you think that it's a perfect synthesis of not just your products, but also the way you present them and also your character? Because, I mean, there are very few CEOs that would dress up and what was it you were playing in the cheese advert for the cheese watch? Was it like a lute or a ukulele or something? I
have no idea. No, I was wearing. I had a bow where it was kind of this Wilhelm Tell, Guillaume Tell, Swiss character, but it was really impromptu. It was really like last minute thing. I stopped on the highway to buy like those suspenders with the Swiss flag, and then I had this hat I received in the Swiss plane, and then. It was really like, it was not planned. It was like in the last minutes before the movie, we need kind of a Swiss atmosphere. So I went to different stores and tried to find stuff. We didn't really prepare that, but that brings a little bit of the idea of it not taking ourselves too seriously. And I think that allowed us to make a lot of mistakes that people let us go out with, like if we had been too professional about it, people would have said, they take themselves way too seriously. And I think that was good, maybe, to be a little bit unprofessional about it. That gave us, a little bit of security and allow us to make mistakes. But I don't know if it would work for other brands. I think every brand is different. I think what worked for Moser is that we tried really to be, as you said before, quite holistic. I think our communications matches a little bit our product offering in a way. Yes, we are classic. We try to respect tradition and values, but at the same time, we try to provoke and be modern and different at the same time. And I think in both the product development, the product offering, but also in the communication, this is very similar. So I think at the end of the day, you need to find a formula for your brand or for yourself that kind of works for you and matches what you're trying to communicate and trying to sell. And I think in the case of Moser, that worked pretty well.
Amazing. You also just mentioned that you want to be critical, and you guys also raised a very important topic with your amazing red baseball caps, which is obviously a great hook looking at the previous president of the United States with his red caps. But you raised a very important question, and you guys did that already with the mash up of a watch that took bits and pieces of colleagues. Where do you guys stand on that topic? Would you mind elaborating a bit on why you guys started these campaigns and where you're heading, and do you see any effect?
The campaign with the red cap came in 2017 when we did the Swiss Mad watch, so the cheese watch. The idea there was always our provocations or our campaigns were linked to an important topic for us. On that year, as you might remember, January 2017, there was a change in the regulation about what makes a watch Swiss made or any product Swiss made. And we changed the regulation from 50% of the added value to 60%. I'm not going to go into details, but it's not a huge difference for a lot of brands that are on the edge. It was a big difference for us. It was, as we are a brand that produce 100% in-house or in Switzerland, it didn't make much sense. And there's a reason why we decided to kind of call a little bit out our community on the Swiss made label and make people realize what it actually means. We felt that a lot of brands abuse the system. There's a little bit of an omerta where people try to make people believe that Swiss made means 100% made in Switzerland, which is by far not the case. We wanted to bring a little bit more transparency and honesty in this industry. And so we created the Swiss Mad watch with a lot of reactions, positive and negatives, as always, when you provoke. A year later, we did the Swiss Icons watch. There, the topic was a little bit about the fact that there are a lot of brands that are quite amazing, producing themselves things and designing amazing products. And there are some others where we feel they're more like picking things that work from others and then just do marketing. And this is still relevant today. And I think this campaign could work over and over again. And we wanted to, again, call out a little bit about this element. And we got burned burnt on that one, but it's a very similar topic. So yeah, we use the red caps again as a provocation. We found it interesting to talk about the Swiss made in those terms and say make Swiss made great again as a campaign with a hashtag with all the movies, the product behind it. It worked out well. Some people hated it, some people loved it. Again, you cannot please everybody, and when you're an independent brand like Moser, it's important that you get people to really understand and love what you do and get crazy and become a part of the community and become ambassadors, so to say, of our brand. But at the same time, it usually means that you get people that are on the other side of the spectrum and who find it completely stupid or irrelevant or just useless provocation. You cannot please everyone, but we don't want. And I think if you're ready to take that risk, what's interesting is how a strong fan base you can create, and then it's amazing to work with those people.
So 3 years after you released the cheese watch, you came out with the Streamliner, right? That was 2020, if my memory serves, although it feels like it's been here forever. I mean, it's been established now as a modern classic. Everybody loves a Streamliner. I think your order book probably reflects that sentiment entirely. My question is, has communicating those messages that you really aggressively started to communicate in 2017 become easier now you have created an icon? Now you have something that you can hang the whole brand's hat on, as it were, that little Swiss hat that you picked up. Has it become easier or harder to make statements, industry-wide statements, now you have the Streamliner in your catalog?
It's a good question. I don't know. I never asked myself the question. I think it's what scares me sometimes nowadays is to become lazy, because everything is much easier. There's a strong dynamic. We have established our network. We have a great production facility here. We have great fans. Sales are easy. But it's not given. You never know when it's going to stop, and everything is quite easy for everybody at the moment. And I think we need to be careful not, as I said, become lazy and travel less and communicate less and develop, innovate, create less, because things sell too easily. I think the Streamliner is definitely a milestone for Moser, but I think it's just the beginning of the next phase, which is for us to continue to become, I don't know if it's pretentious, but kind of the leading independent brand, still family owned and run, bringing things that people don't expect. Now that we have things working and in place and generating good business, it's easy to say, well, why do we change anything? Why would we create something crazy again if we do that? Well, I think there is a brand like Moser because of that, because we want to push the boundaries. We want to try things. We want people to be surprised and say, "Oh, I wouldn't have expected that from Moser." I love to hear that. I want to experiment and try new things, new world, new technologies, new materials in any aspect of the business, being sales, marketing, and product development.
Well, talking of models that may yet come to fruition, I was wondering, has the Streamliner's success, has it cannibalized the sales for the rest of the collection, or has it just drawn attention to the brand in general? Do you just see like an uptick across the board in interest and in sales and in inquiries and whatnot, or has it actually like pigeonholed you somewhat?
We're not doing a lot of consumer research and analytics. We try to gather as much information from the market as possible. But my take is the Streamliner has definitely brought a lot of light on and focus on the brand. But we pay a lot of attention to keep the brand very balanced. So we have 4 pillars. As you may know, we have the Endeavor, which is our kind of classic modern. We have the Pioneer, which is our everyday sporty watch. We have the Streamliner, obviously. And we have the Heritage, which is our more like antique modern take on Moser. And they were all very important. So we try in terms of launches to really balance across all those collections. So this year we launched the Pioneer cylindrical tourbillon. We launched the Endeavor lime green. We launched the Streamliner tourbillon. The idea is really to keep them quite balanced. We could sell way more Streamliner, but I don't think it's healthy for a brand to be too mono product. We've seen a lot of big brands becoming like this, and they've been very successful, but they've been always struggling to try to redevelop other alternative lines, because you never know where the market is going to go in the future. So my strategy is to continue to keep a very balanced brand between those different lines, and that's why we have amazing product, amazing new movement that we said, we could obviously easily put it in the Streamliner and sell a lot, but we want on purpose to continue to promote and and support those other lines. But to be honest, since we launched the Streamliner, all the other lines have expanded in terms of volumes. We see also the secondary market prices on those lines increase and go significantly above retail. So I think definitely Streamliner has helped promote the rest of the collection and make Moser more well known. It's just a matter of us being responsible and taking care of the brand and making sure that it remains balanced.
Edouard, the most important question. What watch are you wearing today?
Well, following the question you had just before, it might not be the right answer, but I'm wearing the Streamliner Funky Blue Chrono.
Of course you are. I absolutely love that movement. I love it. That there are so few central minute chronographs in the industry, and no wonder it's so popular. I would do anything to own one of those movements. That one's made by Agenor, right?
Yeah, so we work very closely with the Agenor team, with the Videresh family, and we have big plans to continue to collaborate together and invest in new developments, and hopefully we'll have some interesting news in the near future. But yeah, I think we are independent. They are independent. They're a family of passionate people. So are we, and that's why it's so much fun to work with them, and also have our engineers collaborate.
I don't want to jump the gun here, but is there any chance you might bring them in-house as part of the Moser family so that you can control the supply even further?
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, right now, managing a brand is already something very complex. As you know, we have two brands with Haute-Lance, and we also have we are suppliers of hairsprings with precision engineering. So it's quite a lot on our plate. With obviously with the current growth, it's a lot of investment. So let's take one step at a time.
Edouard, Rob just said he'll do anything, so I would take advantage of that comment.
I didn't mean anything. I mean, if you want me to wear some lederhosen and play a lute in the next promo video for the, cheese-flavored Streamliner, yeah, I'll do that. But, I won't do anything, terribly embarrassing.
Well, we'll test that.
I know what you've been doing during Oktoberfest. Edouard, following up to what you're wearing today, our listeners are very curious to know what your personal grail watch is.
In the Moser collection or in general?
You can do both.
Yeah, do both.
Well, in the Moser collection, I think it doesn't exist yet. My dream is to combine some of our amazing complications, like you mentioned the chrono, but I think the perpetual calendar is an amazing collection from Moser. I love our minute repeater tourbillons. So my grail now, and we have 200 years in a couple of years, in 2028. So I'm really pushing my team to work hard on creating some kind of grand complication for Moser and combining the complications we'll have. So yeah, obviously combining those and putting it in the Streamliner or an Endeavor or whatever would be my grail, and I'm working towards that. And outside, I think there are a few brands that I love. Doesn't mean I love the people behind the brands, but I love the brands and the products. I grew up with my father working at AP, and I really love the Royal Oak. For me, that's definitely something that I love, and especially the perpetual calendar, the steel platinum one. I have a few other Royal Oaks, but one day hope I can get one of those. I like what Journe is doing. I think there's some amazing products with the resonance and the way he's pushing. Both, I love the aesthetics. I think it's amazingly well done and well balanced. I'm somebody who loves symmetry, and there's not always symmetry in his watches, but nevertheless, I really love his designs and obviously the engineering behind. A lot of respect for that. So when you're in this industry, there's a lot of grails. You cannot afford all of them, but you can see them on a regular basis.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to say on the record that the Swiss Alp watch, the Concept Black you guys made, I believe 3 years ago, the Tourbillon minute repeater, is my favorite minute repeater ever.
The one without the hands?
Yeah. That's my favorite complication. I love moon-faced watches and perpetual calendars, but the minute repeater is maybe up there for me together with the rattrapante movement. But a minute repeater without hands, has it ever been done before? I don't think so. Not in modern watchmaking.
I don't think so. No, there were
No.
tourbillons without hands made, but minute repeater, and it was interesting because I think that's where I realized that people were slowly starting to understand Moser, because we got so much love for that watch, even though it was kind of a crazy concept, and I thought people would just simply say it's stupid. But so many people understood the philosophy behind the brand, the product, and how it kind of pushed the boundaries and helped explain what Moser's philosophy was. That was a great. I remember waking up and Watches and Wonders after having launched that, and my brother calling me and said, "Oh, did you read the articles on the watch?" I said, "No, I'm going to run and for a run, and frankly, I don't want to be disturbed with this, because I usually don't read the comments, because I just don't want to read the hate of people hiding behind their computer." And he said, "Oh, you should read it. Today it's really positive." So I was really surprised, and I ended up actually reading them. But usually I don't. I try to avoid reading too much articles and comments.
Okay, so I want to go officially on the record. I thought it was a stroke of genius.
Thank you.
Taking this stroke of genius on a very high level, I want to build the bridge to something that blew me personally away, was your presentation. I believe last year's Watches and Wonders still was digital, right?
Yeah.
And you guys did a masterclass on design, and you went deep on your design codes and the DNA of H. Moser, but also why you guys on some models write your logo with transparent lacquer,
or even remove it,
or remove it. So could we maybe do a little deep dive on that topic? And I want to maybe link a question to that maybe for those that are not that familiar, that are listening to the episode and are not that familiar with H. Moser Cie, just give them an elevator pitch. So who and what is H. Moser Cie? What is your DNA and design code? And then do a deep dive for those that are known with the brand and why you guys push the envelope. So maybe you can touch upon the fume dials and etc.
Okay, I'll try to answer all that, but please bear with me, and maybe you can help me get to the next point one after the other. But yeah, going back to original question, what is Moser, the elevated speech? To be honest, I think we believe we are one of the few independent brand, family run and owned, and we like to believe that we are the bridge between traditional and modern watchmaking. We have a lot of respect for traditions, and you can look at our movements, the way we finish them, the way they build 3/4 bridge, the type of low beat movements. All those elements are very reminiscent of the early 20th century, but at the same time, we like to be in the now and exploring materials, design, minimalism, Bauhaus. That's the core of what we are. Now, how did we come to this? I think when I took over Moser, we had the perpetual calendar, which was an amazing movement, which defined for me the codes of function at Moser. Everything has to be, any complexity has to be reduced to the essence. So trying to take any complication and try to get rid of anything that is unnecessary. There's been a competition in the watch industry of trying to make watches as complex as possible and look as complex as possible. Moser, we try to do the other way around, is to try to make very complex yet user-friendly watches and make them look like 3-hands watches. Reason why we worked with Ageno on the chronograph, because that was the best movement out there for us, fitting our philosophy, which was defined by my predecessors through the perpetual one, which was our perpetual calendar. And then in 2012, when I started, Moser was struggling for many different reasons. Financially, because just the watches pricing didn't make any sense. Costs were super high. Quality was a disaster. But they had amazing movements. Yet people would look at the watches and say, wow, they're amazing. There's good value for money. But as we all know, luxury is not about value for money. Luxury is about emotions. It's about something that really brings a connection to the people owning the watches. So we couldn't live with that. And the first analysis that I did was looking at the core models, which was the Monarch. At that time, that was the name. Today is known as the Endeavour Center II. There were two options. You had the rose gold black dial, you had the or silver dial, and you had the white gold silver dial. So take the white gold silver dial, and we did an easy exercise. We took that one, removed on PowerPoint the logo, and then we took Patrimony, we took Calatrava, we took a Jewel Audemars, we took a Saxonia, and did the same exercise and put all those watches next to each other and asked people which one is which. nobody had any idea. And as Rob said before, now we have the Streamliner, but 10 years ago, we had only one collection, which was the Endeavor. And it was a round watch with a silver dial with a white gold case. So what do you do with that? Because when you end up on the tray next to a Patek Philippe, a Lange, or a Vacheron, or an AP, or a JLC watch, 99.999% of the people will buy a brand. And they're definitely not going to buy a Moser because nobody knows it. So we were there with amazing products, a beautiful manufacturer, losing a lot of money with great movements, but that nobody knew, and with very few emotions behind it. So all the work was to try to find ways to bring this emotion. Of course, solve the financial issues and the quality issues, but bring this emotion through the product. And that's where we started working with one thing that we had in a very, very small collection at that time, which was the Palladium, which they had done a handful of them. We had the fumé dials. And for me, that was something, first, I liked the fumé, and second, it was different. It was something new that was not done, was perceived as a little bit old school, but was because it had been done 40 years ago. But it was specific to Moser. So then with the team, we said, how do we make it fun and modern? And then we started playing with colors, and it became our design. And then I wanted to show how beautiful our dials were, because people said, oh, I love the Moser dials. It was already back in 2013, 14. I said, let's do more of those fumé dials. And then I decided for a PR exercise to create a dial without any logo and just put it in a dial. So no indexes, no logo. It was supposed to be a watch that we take pictures of for a PR where we promote the Moser dials. And when the watch came and I wore it on my wrist, I was like, this is actually something that is pretty cool to wear because it's different again. So I told my team, let's do a limited edition for Baselworld 2015, I think, of the first, we call them the concept, because it was kind of a forward-thinking product for us. So we call it the concept dials. We launched it. My team was very perplexed. I mean, they had doubt. They said, well, how do you sell a watch without a logo? I said, well, nobody buys a watch because of our logo, since nobody knows the brand. So let's make sure they buy it because they understand the feature, and let's start thinking that we're not creating watches, but we're creating art pieces. And that was the moment where it clicked for me and the team. And since then, we try to apply all those codes about the finishing, the movement, but also the dial, the minimalism, going to, as I said, the essence of the function. And it worked well for us. And in the presentation that you're referring to from Watches and Wonders 2021, I think, I had a slide where I presented, I think it's Coke cans, where you don't see, it doesn't say Coke on it. It's just these red and white lines and colors coming together. And you know it is Coke because you're familiar with their codes. And I said, that's my dream. I want people to recognize a Moser from the distance without having the logo, because if we do a good job, they will understand that, oh, because of those elements, it is a Moser. And I think slowly we're getting there. And I think it's very, very important for a brand that people come to a store, they come in front of the windows, they go to an exhibition, they see people wearing a watch, and they say, oh, I understand why this is a Moser, because it's part of the entire creation of this watch. And I made also the analogy to art. If you look at art, you value a Picasso not because of that particular one, but because it's part of all the creations of Picasso. And it was made on that year and with that technique, and people understand and value it because it's part of a process, and not just because of that particular piece. And I want the Moser collection to be exactly the same. Every single product is valued and appreciated because of what came before and what will come after. Does it answer your question?
Wow, I think you managed to answer all of them without any prompts whatsoever. I was quite rapt by that answer. It's fascinating, and I love the Coke can presentation point. That really does resonate with me, and I think you've achieved that already, and especially with the Streamliner, of course, because its silhouette is so unlike anything else out there.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be only that, because keep in mind that in the beginning we only had round cases. It's much easier once you have if you have a Nautilus, a Royal Oak, or a Streamliner.
Yeah.
Not that I want to put all of them in the same basket, since Streamliner is 50 years younger, and we will need time to establish it as a true icon. But that's our ambition. But when you have a round watch, then I think you need to put a lot of efforts and thoughts, and that helped us a lot. And today it makes our life much easier in terms of business, of product development, because we know exactly what makes which makes a Moser. It doesn't prevent us from experimenting and trying new things and surprising people. And again, that's where we get people saying, "Oh, that for me, that's not a Moser."
I think quite magically what you've managed to do is to make that experimental aspect of the design a key tenet of the Moser brand.
I hope so, yeah.
I think you can push the boat out in ways that other brands can't, because you have quite honestly and just genuinely built up that arm of your design ethos from day one.
Yeah.
Talking of a design ethos, what I really am interested in is the process of product development that takes place behind the scenes. I understand the motivations, I understand the end goal of having something that is just so quintessentially Moser, it couldn't be mistaken for anything else. But how does it work? Do you have these flashes of inspiration yourself? Do you have a design team? Are you pitched with ideas, or do you pitch ideas? Do you give your designers a vision brief to begin with? What's the process? Walk us through exactly how a new Moser comes to life.
We're very bad at processes at Moser, which actually need now to improve a little bit. So it really depends on the project. I mean, there's things, when it's just about a new case or a new dial, then it's really discussions about, we work together with Bertrand, my brother, with Nicholas, with Maurizio, and we say, next year, what color do we want to do? I mean, we have enough blue in the collection, or many people are doing blue, or now green. We've done green for a while. What's next? What do we want to try? And then we kind of play with Pantones, and then we create some dials. We try them on. They say I try to wear them a month, my brother, and then if I like, or I ask somebody else to wear it, and then if after a month you still like it, it's usually a good sign, and then we move to the next one. When it's a development like the Streamliner, then it's much more complex. Then you need really the ambition to create something. It's going to take time, and you need iterations. Then we need external help for illustration, and that's where we usually have designers. We have internally kind of illustrator designer is doing a lot of things for us, but not developing things like the Streamliner. There we worked with Marcus Eilinger, who developed the Endeavor for us. He used to be a designer at IWC. He's been independent. I think he works for Leica now. But he was like our sparring partner, really like a product designer, and basically the brief was we want to create an integrated steel bracelet, and it was very frustrating for him because when I started, we already started in 2012. I had even drawings on my desk when I arrived at Moser. They already had the idea of creating an integrated steel bracelet, but they all looked like the engineer. I mean, we are 5 kilometers from IWC, so you can imagine how much influence we get from those guys, knowing that even 50% of my team are ex-IWC, and the designer was ex-IWC. So it looked too much like that, and obviously that doesn't work. I need something different. So we went into multiple iterations, throwing away things, and then stopping the project for a year or two, and then starting again, and until we found the thing that felt Moser. And I think sometimes people said, what would you do differently? I said, I would try to come up with we had a few difficult years in the beginning keep in mind, in 2012, we were bleeding money. The company was so much at risk that we cut a lot of things to reduce the loss, but there were still losses in 2013, 14. So I would have loved to come up with something like the Streamliner much earlier, but it's part of a process. And I think good things take time. And so again, going back to the process, it really depends on what we want to achieve. I mean, if it's developing of a new movement, then it's a lot of work with the engineers and the watchmakers together, and then you kind of define the function that you want, the complication that you want, and then the orientation in terms of Moser codes. Once again, we're going back to what I said in the beginning, the perpetual calendar, going to the essence, being very functional. The type of escapements that we have is pretty standard at Moser, as being our own. And then the engineers and the watchmakers work together to make it Moser, but at the same time comfortable for the watchmakers to assemble, regulate, etc. So it's quite a long process. It really depends what kind of project we are working on, and we're quite flexible. But again, as we grow, we need to put more processes in place.
Edouard, I love the collabs you did with MBNF, Second, Undefeated. Do you have any more collabs in the pipeline? And how did you experience these partnerships? Because you guys are so creative, you actually don't need it. I think the majority of brands that do collabs kind of want an infusion of, let's say, new blood and creativity. How did you experience all these collabs?
Well, I think you're right. I think the objective for me of a collab is exactly that, is again pushing the boundaries, exploring territories that we would probably not explore on our own. If you look at I think the collaboration with MBNF as an example really helped us explore the third dimension. All Moser watches before were very two-dimensional. I mean, it was all information on the dial, as you said, beautiful fumé dials, etc. There with Max, we really started working with the escapement in the third dimension, creating really art, 3D art pieces. And I remember coming out of this and of course learning a lot from the process of working with Max and his team, which have a very different approach to product development and production. And then looking at the product and said, well, that's maybe the beginning of something new for Moser. And this year we came up with the cylindrical tourbillon in the Pioneer skeleton cylindrical tourbillon, which basically is the natural evolution of the collaboration that we had with Max 2 years ago. So for me, it's as much as the journey and as to exploring a new territory. And if you look at Seconde, it's about this art, and that helped us then come up with the tutorial and other ideas that we have. Then Undefeated is really exploring a completely new audience as well, and try things. And again, it's I think there are brands like Moser for that. I think a lot of brands bigger cannot take the risks that we do, but I think for us it's important to continue to do that. And we have projects, and probably your next question is what's in the pipeline. And there are a few things in the pipeline where we want to try things that people will say, oof, this is risky, or why now, or why do they do this? And but because we want to be sometimes a little bit of the guinea pig for our industry, and I think collaborations help a lot for that, because it's in a way, it's kind of one shot, it's very focused, and there's kind of a philosophy, a moment behind it.
I'm obviously fishing for a scoop. Anything you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, if everything goes well, there's going to be something interesting before the end. Well, there's always things interesting, but there's going to be something, I would say, where we're trying to explore new territories. I don't know if we can talk about collaboration. We're developing something that I hope we can launch before the end of the year, which will be one of the most, how should I say, polarizing launch that we had in a long time. It'll be interesting to see how people react to that. It's just not just a product. It's really about, it's a big project, and it was quite ambitious with a lot of global partners. And I'm not going to say too much about it, because I think it's important that it's a surprise and people discover the full package at once.
Oh, it's mysterious.
If we talk about collaborations, we are looking at a couple of collaborations for the next couple of years, and it's more about our history there. We're working on I mean, we did with Max, and it was really about watchmaking, and then we did art with people like was Seconde. Then we worked on the streetwear fashion industry with the Armory and Undefeated. And there's always topics. Not everybody sees it, but from our perspective, that's the strategy and how we do collaboration. So the next big topic would be Moser is 194 years old brand now, soon 95, soon 200. So we want to explore and communicate a little bit of our history, some key dates about what Moser did in the past, and revisit those kind of things through collaboration. So we're going to do things around the early 20th century and some things around the Second World War and maybe even before that.
Oh, I love a good mystery. That's going to get the brain cogs turning, trying to figure out what's coming next. Very exciting stuff.
And hopefully you cannot figure out. If we do a good job, I hope you don't figure it out.
Good point. Right, okay, so I'll have to turn my thought process upside down to have any chance of getting close, but I'm sure I won't. I'm sure you've done a good job of coming up with something completely sideways. I think it's so refreshing that you're doing this, you're pursuing these collaborations, this not just cross-branding or co-branding, but cross-industry in some cases, to try and tap into new demographics and to spread the good word of watchmaking further afield than it ever has been spread before. And you're leading the charge, that's for sure. You're not the only brand that's doing co-branding, of course, and cross-industry collaboration, but you are one of the most habitual when it comes to that. My question for you is, it's a dual question, but an easy one to remember, I hope. not like the bullet point list like that Alon gave you before with like 15 questions in one. Even I had no idea what was going on there. No, what I want to know is if you could pick one watch brand, and I guess I'm going to ask you to pick one that you are definitely not working with at this point. So a sort of dream collaborator to create a new watch with, who would it be? And if you could create something with one other brand from any other industry, so it could be fashion, it could be technology, it could be the automotive industry, which brand would it be and why?
Can I take two brands? Two very different brands. I think if we look at doing something with a classic brand, for me, there's an obvious connection to IWC because our histories are connected. So I think it would be interesting, and people would see it as a sacrilege. But I think IWC being our sister company, having our founder helped Arrested Jones found create IWC 150 years ago, would make sense for us to have a collaboration with them. And I hope one day that will come to life. If we were to go into more like another independent, I would love to do something with something completely different from what we do, and I think a brand like Ressence, for example, would be a good fit. I think Benoit and his team are also very creative. They've in a very different way pushing boundaries way beyond what we are doing, and I would love to explore what a Moser Ressence watch would look like. I think that could be an amazing product. Outside our industry, I mean, that's going to be an obvious answer maybe for many people, and maybe not. Just like top of my mind, but obviously working with something that is so big and so avant-garde, like Apple or Tesla, would be for me the dream. And just going through the process of working with those way forward thinking minds would just be an amazing learning experience for me, and beyond the product, really the journey would be, again, for me, a collaboration is as much about the journey as the product, and I think in this case it would definitely be about the journey.
Amazing, Edouard. I think that the listeners like me are now bouncing up and down if they're sitting, and if they're exercising and listening to this podcast, they're running faster. I think a Scafusia partnership would be amazing. Ressence, I didn't expect that, but I totally feel it. Obviously, we're going to send this episode to both Christian and Benoit, but I have a feeling you've talked to them about this already. Tesla Apple is an interesting one. You know which one I think would be also cool is Patrick Pugnon and you. I think you're cut from the same cloth. I think you guys could also do something cool. On paper, it might be that
we're too similar.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But but on the other hand, I think that if you sprinkle a bit of H. Moser Cie style on a, let's say, freak, that would be amazing. But okay, I'm daydreaming right now.
Well, I think he could do that between this is probably a freak Laureato kind of thing, which could be an amazing product for them as well. They have, GP and Moser. GP is a little bit of a mix, or Moser is a little bit of a mix of I would say a mix between UN and GP. So I'm not sure it would work that well, but I appreciate what Patrick is doing. I think they're doing an amazing job there, and I think I'm happy to have them as part of the indies again. I think these are amazing brands. I have a lot of respect. I remember looking at GP for many years under the Macaluso family and what they did at that time, and I really hope they get back on track, and I think they're on the way.
You raised your colleagues in Schaffhausen.
I raised my colleagues?
You raised the topic, so you named you named your colleagues in Schaffhausen twice. Let me rephrase.
Yes.
I think what makes you Schaffhausen manufacturers amazing is you are the odd ones out in Switzerland because you're in the northern part of Switzerland, on the border of Germany, makes you a bit Germanic. I think the less is more is a thing you guys share. Yeah. I regret that IWC, and I say this in brackets, lost their sense of humor in their communication.
Well, they couldn't keep the same sense, right? I think today would be very dangerous if they were doing the same ads that they were doing in the 90s and early 2000s.
Definitely. It was not PC back then. Today, back then, they got away with it.
We could laugh about it, but today,
yeah. But they lost, they steered away from that style. I'm happy you guys are doing it. My question to you is...
It's much easier now.
Yeah, I'm actually very positively surprised that you mentioned that you would love to do a collab with them. My question is, what else do you guys have in common being in, well, you're in Neuhausen now, but let's say Greater Schaffhausen? And I think that collab would be amazing because you guys will elevate that region like all the Glashütte brands elevate Glashütte in Germany. What do you guys have in common more? And that's maybe in an undercurrent that we don't see, obviously.
Well, I think you're right in terms of design. There's definitely this Germanic engineering / Bauhaus design similarities across the brands. But I think it's also, if you look at Lange, if you look at Jung Hans, there are similarities of all the Germanic brands, and probably Moser and Lange and IWC are the most Germanic Swiss brands, and that's probably because we are on the border to Germany. And to be honest, I personally like the design and codes of German and Japanic brands, and I think they have a lot in common as well. So I think that's something we have in common. And then now, I mean, of course, we share people because some come to us and some go to them from our team, and depending on where they stay and they stand in their career and what their aspirations are. But also, we're discussing with them, and I mean, there's very constructive discussions all the time about we bought some tools that they didn't need anymore, and they're very, very nice, and they give them very good prices to be able to acquire those machines from IWC as they grow and didn't need them anymore, and they were exactly what we needed for Moser. We're also exploring ways to train watchmakers, which is very difficult to get on the northern part of Switzerland. So these are things that we're trying to work together. So I think there's a very constructive and healthy collaboration and relationship between the two brands. Of course, they are a part of a huge conglomerate, which means that they cannot decide and take the same risk and actions that we do. But I really like the discussions and constructive projects we have together.
Amazing. Thank you for being so open and transparent and sharing so much. We really appreciate that. And this is what makes the Real Time Show what it is. It's Real Talks. I have zillion more questions for you, Edouard. As you might have noticed, both you and the listeners, I'm very passionate about what you guys do. As me being part of a family business as well, I'm working with my dad. I know that a decade ago when MELB Holdings started with both Moser Cie and Lance, your dad, Georges-Henri, was active as well. Your brother's active. Is your dad still active in the business?
Well, he was never active, actually. He was active because, well, he had to take the decision with us. And it was, I remember the call we had with my brother and my father saying, do we do it or not? But he's been at the board since then, and he's 78 now, and he's very attuned. He knows what we're doing. He loves the product. He likes to know, and he comes maybe once every 6 months to the manufacturer to see a little bit what's happening, how is the team and the structure and the product development evolving. And we try to involve him also a lot on the product development because he's a great eye. And with my brother, we started from day one, and it's been doing well. I think we have a lot of freedom as owners, and I think that our father got a lot of respect on seeing the results, and therefore never questions what we do and what we decide. He also realizes that running a brand like Moser is very different from running a brand like AP, which he was doing before, because you just don't have the same leverage and the same problematics, and therefore you apply a very different business model, and the decision making and the power struggle between you as a small brand and your partners around the world is the balance is very different. AP could impose a lot of things, and I think even more today. And when we basically were at the mercy of our partners, they decide what the rules. It's changing as well as we grow, and the market now is maybe much more brand driven. It used to be more distribution driven. But nevertheless, that my father realized that pretty quickly and stopped saying, "Oh, we used to do this at AP. Why don't you do it?" He said, "Well, it just doesn't work because when I call my retailers, new retailers, they don't even answer the phone," which was very different when AP was doing that.
Do you think that your kids will follow you into the business, into the watchmaking world? Are they as fascinated by it as the rest of us are?
They're pretty young, but they obviously believe Moser watches are the most beautiful watches out there. Yeah, I agree with them.
Well trained.
Yeah, brainwashed, you mean? When they look at my Instagram, they're like, "Oh, yeah, well, I know those watches." But anyway, I don't know. I mean, frankly, we raised them as they hopefully they can do whatever they want. I hope they have creative minds and innovative minds, and and just love what they do. And so far, they seem to be very passionate kids. So I hope they find their passion as I had the chance to find mine. Obviously, growing in the watch industry, I was really in a valley where everybody was working in the watch industry. We live in Zurich, so they're quite far away from the manufacturers. So they're not, except through me, they're not, confronted to watches every day. Where I was confronted pretty much every day in the Vallée du Joux when I grew up, with all my friends, their parents, my cousins, my father, everybody working in the watch industry. It's a very different environment. So I think the likelihood that I was going to work in the watch industry was much higher than the likelihood my kids will work in the watch industry. But between my brother and I, we have 7 kids. So out of 7, there might be 1. Who knows?
Edouard, I can continue for hours and have many more questions for you, but maybe we should round it up with the final question, still on topic of family. As you mentioned, your whole family is intertwined with the watch industry. The Meylan name is very famous in the watchmaking industry. You mentioned several times that your dad works at Audemars Piguet. On the previous episode, Jean-Claude Biver was very happy that he's starting a new brand with his son. Now you are one generation down. We spoke about the next generation. Going back to you, maybe an outro for this episode. What is it that you learned from your dad, either business, watchmaking, or in life, that you want to share with us?
Well, there's many things. I mean, from that I learned from my father. I think it started with he's somebody that is very opinionated and never afraid of addressing the things he believed in. And I think that the way we as a brand have always been quite activist and opinionated is very linked to how we grew up with our father being like this. That means he didn't have only friends in the industry, but he was respected by most. I think that's very important to us, not to let people tell us what to do, but just do the things we feel are important to us in respect of traditional watchmaking. I think that's a very important element that our father also taught us is to be respectful to the craftsmanship, the people working behind, all those amazing watchmakers and craftsmen, etc. So I think all those elements are, for me, the base of what Moser stands for, and continuing to try to protect and promote the true traditional watchmaking and craftsmanship, and at the same time looking into the future. And I think we struck a nice balance, and that's probably thanks to our father.
Well, brilliant answer. A lovely family-oriented point on which to end. And I'm going to keep Alon and his zillion questions in the bank for the next time that you visit us, Edouard, because that was a wonderful hour chat. Really enjoyed it. And I hope you will grace us again with your presence at some point in the near future.
It was great pleasure.
Okay, hang on a second. How do I end this show? I have a thing where I do...
Do you want me to end it as well? Or... Do I really have to do everything today?
You'll pop over and clean my office afterwards as well, for goodness sake. That's an absolute state.
Should I bring you lunch?
That sounds tempting. Firstly, I need to tell the listeners, this is what we do. Okay, this is the Real Time Show. Get in touch with us. You can contact us via Instagram. Either contact me at RobNuds, that's ROBNUDDS, or at Alon Ben Joseph, ALONBENJOSEPH. Or contact either of us via email. That's either rob@therealtime.show or alon@therealtime.show. I'm going to hand it over to our far more competent guest host, Edouard Meylan of H. Moser Cie. Thanks again for your time, and take it away.
No, thank you, Guy. Again, great show. I really enjoyed this open, honest discussion. We need the real-time show and people like you to for our industry. We're part of an ecosystem. It's fun. It should be fun. It's all about passion, and really appreciate what you guys are doing. And I hope more and more people will follow and listen.
Right, okay, you've got my job.